then there's the MAC championship game, which they will probably not be attending. But
thanks for trying.
Here's hoping for improvement. I'd like to see improvement.
At this point, that's all we can hope for is like just win a couple games. Just like win 2 games, 2 or 3 games.
My goal is 3 games, and next year Mega Bowl.
Hello and welcome back to the Fourth and Long-Winded Podcast. This is episode number 9. We're going to be talking about the MAC East, as we promised in the last episode. Quick reminder, if you watch us on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment. Make sure to share with your friends. If you got a friend who likes college football, maybe tell them to give us a listen. Same goes for Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. But Cody, how you doing today?
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Feeling quite hungry.
Told you, man, you should have had a snack before we started.
I know, but I couldn't contain my thoughts on the MAC East. So
all right, well,
too excited.
Before we get into the next installment of our State of the Conference series, let's talk on a few news items. Round 1 of the FCS playoffs was this past weekend. South Dakota State beat Holy Cross, they're the number 1 overall seed. They'll play Southern Illinois, who beat Weber State.
Aren't they the Salukis?
Yep. For Jacksonville State, they beat Davidson. They'll play Delaware, who beat Sacred Heart. James Madison, 3 seed.
Beat VMI, right?
Yep. They'll play North Dakota, not North Dakota State, regular North Dakota, who pounded Missouri State 44-10. Did you see our boy Bobby Petrino won Coach of the Year in the Missouri Valley at Missouri State?
Jesus.
Then he got blasted by North Dakota. 2 seed Sam Houston beat Monmouth. They'll play North Dakota State. My pick at the beginning of the season.
That could be a good game.
Who crushed Eastern Washington 42-20. So that's your FCS playoff update.
It's going to be actually probably not that interesting. It's probably going to be the same thing that it always is in the FCS.
It probably will be at the Final Four, like the Final Four games.
Yeah. It's always the same players, it seems like.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah. Moving on, Texas, Alabama, and Mississippi state legislatures have passed a bill that allows athletes to be compensated for image and likeness. So continued steps in the right direction on that front. Paul Chryst, head coach of Wisconsin, they announced that he is getting a contract extension.
He deserves it.
Through 2026. So he'll be around. Maybe the new Barry Alvarez. I could see that.
Yeah, he just kind of becomes Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Exudes cheese curds.
Yes. I mean, Paul Chryst, you just take one look at him, and that guy just screams Wisconsin.
True facts. Oh, not wrong. And it's like he's going to pull out a big cold beer and put some cheese on his head.
Exactly. LSU announced, I don't know if you saw this, Darius Geis is being banned.
I did. I saw that this morning.
All his records are going to be removed from their school record books.
He's not being asked back to the university, or being banned entirely.
Yeah.
They
are also firing their law firm of about 80 years. They've had the same law firm for 80 years. And they just fired him.
I want to say that's a step in the right direction, but I mean,
oh boy,
it's performative, as with everything else that LSU does.
Sorry, a little bit of a camera issue. Did a cut there, so it should be seamless until I fucking said something. And the camera quality has changed dramatically. West Virginia head coach Neil Brown, we just talked about him a couple episodes ago, but he received a 2-year extension. Obviously some faith in Neil Brown, what he's done so far. Hopefully
not totally on board with that decision. I would not have made that decision personally, but I guess it makes sense.
He hasn't done terribly. So I think here's a nice little 2-year extension, a little bit more security, helps with recruiting. Like I think
Yeah,
it's
it makes sense. I guess I'm a little disappointed coming off that season where they were ranked like as high as 3.
Yeah.
The season before he took over, he should have had a better first year, in my opinion. But can't nitpick too much. He's doing a good job.
Finally, the CFB subcommittee for the playoff presented several expansion scenarios. Now, this is exciting, but nothing is imminent, and it's probably nothing's going to happen until 2025.
When they start talking, that's when they realize that they can make a lot of money off this, and that I was right all along, and that they should have just listened to me. I like how 2013 before they did all this bullshit.
I like how you're claiming that as if you're the only one who's.
I am. I've been saying it, been beating this fucking drum for far too long.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that'll do it for the news. So let's get into the MAC East.
Okay. So our first team, who also happens to have the worst recruiting class in the MAC East, is Akron. They are ranked 120th, which is actually an improvement from last year. 124th. You've moved up 4 spots. Their previous MAC rank was 10th, so they weren't even the worst last year in the MAC.
Yeah.
Though they were the worst team.
By far. Well, I guess not by far.
Yeah, close enough.
They had a win and Bowling Green didn't, so.
Yeah, that's fair. They have 17 total commits, and of those commits, 11 were 3-stars. Arguably, yeah, Dan, you say your piece, and then I'll say my piece.
I don't really have a lot to say about Akron. I think their head coach is kind of interesting. It's Tom Arth. He's entering his 3rd season. Yeah. He played in the NFL. He was a quarterback, played with Peyton Manning in Indianapolis, and he was with the Packers for a year.
Yep.
But he's like best friends with the new Chargers head coach, Brandon Staley. They like went to the same college and like coached together. John Carroll in the OAC. That's where they both coached.
I think you won a national championship at the Division III level as well, 1 or 2.
Yeah. And he's super young. And there was even rumors of when Staley took the job at the Chargers that he was going to take him from Akron. And I'm honestly kind of surprised that he came out. He came out and said that, like, no, I want to be at Akron. And I just never thought that I would hear anybody.
I didn't think I'd ever hear a human say that.
Exactly. And so I just think it's kind of interesting. He's got ties to the NFL and had an opportunity to jump up there, and he chose to stay at Akron.
Yeah. So a lot of people probably don't know about the history of Akron, but they started the program, I think, sometime in the 80s. Might have been the 70s. And they were a traditional powerhouse at the FCS level. Or at the lower division. They're quite good. I don't think they ever won a national championship, but they were always right there in the conversation. And so they were a program with a considerable amount of money. And then I think it was 1997, I could be wrong by a year or two there, that they transferred into the FBS and joined the MAC.
92. I got there because I was going to pull up when they joined.
92. I knew it was in the 90s sometime.
They played a season as an independent in the FBS in 1975, and then that was their only season, and they joined full time in 1987. I find that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and so they at one point were a very good team, and they had a lot of fan support. They had money to work with. Alumni were giving money to the program, and then they went FBS, and unfortunately, like, became literally a bottom feeder of FBS. They're not good. I think they have been to 1 MAC championship game.
They made 3 bowls in their entire existence in the FBS.
And that's just they're not good. Arguably the best stadium in the MAC, just facilities wise. It's a really nice stadium. But But it's sad when the biggest crowd that has ever been drawn to that stadium was to literally welcome LeBron James back in like December when he announced that he was returning to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that's the largest crowd you've ever had at a football stadium. Not even for a game, it was just to like look at LeBron and be like, cool.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad to me.
Oh, it's not kind of sad. It is
it's
100%.
Really sad. And like I can even speak to like how good Akron's like the boxes, because I got to go up in one of the boxes when I worked for the athletic department at Bowling Green. Not because I got to do that a lot, but I went to that game and someone saw me and they were like, hey, here's a little guest pass. So I got to go up and watch the game from the 7th floor. It was raining and gross. And then I got free food, but I mean, the food was good. And the actual stadium is a really, really nice stadium. And honestly, they have some of the better practice facilities in the MAC. I honestly don't know why they're in pretty close proximity to Cleveland, who doesn't have a college team. They can recruit out of Pennsylvania. They should be able to recruit out of Michigan. They should be able to recruit out of West Virginia, but they can't. And I don't really understand it. What in the world has just kept them down other than just being so bad for so long? And I think that's what it is. I don't feel good about Tom Arth. I think he's like 1-19. Or
1-17.
1-17. I just like they haven't looked like they were a program that was even on the rise or was showing improvement from year to year.
They were decent under Terry Bowden. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of shocks me because it was this, but like for them, they were they were 500 basically for the entirety of Terry Bowden's tenure. So
Terry Bowden,
he took them to 2 bowl games.
So the one win under Tom Arth was against Bowling Green, a historically bad Bowling Green team. Like,
yes,
a team that quite literally had to transfer I'm pretty sure they had to like find someone on the team that had played quarterback in high school to play quarterback for them.
Yeah. That has to go down as like the greatest toilet bowl game of all toilet bowl games.
Oh God, yeah, it absolutely has to. I wish I could have been there. Goddamn you, 2020. I would have showed out for that.
Yeah.
Let me pull up their 2021 schedule. So
I got it right here.
They've got Auburn, so L. They've got Temple, which is probably an L. They've got the Bryant Bulldogs, who I've literally never heard of.
Yeah, I've heard of them for basketball, and that's it.
So probably maybe a W, maybe. So maybe he gets a second.
Tentatively.
Like it's honestly.
But then
they have probably a similar, similarly ranked recruiting class, and then Ohio State. So they're starting off at least
1-3 at best.
At best, they're 1-3 to start the season. Then you've got Ohio. So you're probably losing that game because it's at Akron. So they have a little better of a chance.
No, we'll talk about Ohio a little bit later. I really like Ohio.
All right. Then you've got Bowling Green, so another toilet bowl.
2.0.
I do think Bowling Green, we'll talk about them, but I think they're going to be a little bit better this year. Not by much, but a little bit. And then you got Miami, Buffalo, Ball State, Western Michigan, Kent State, and Toledo. I mean, they got the tough end of the West Division. I just what do you got? I got they're
2-10. I see 2-10.
2-10 at best.
And then they just kind of ran it, like maybe it's Bowling Green, maybe I don't know, maybe it's Kent State, maybe it's one of these random teams.
Yeah, they got that rivalry with Kent State, so maybe that boosts them up, but I don't know.
I'd say 2-10 is a max.
Yeah. All right. You want to move on to our next team?
Yeah, the Golden Flashes.
Yeah. So
Shout out to Julian Edelman.
I went into this just looking at their recruiting rankings and wasn't super excited about Kent State, but then I got to thinking about it, and I'm a Shawn Lewis stan.
That's the thing. Shawn Lewis is the reason to think Kent State football, or
Yeah.
just to believe in Kent State football.
Yeah, like I have a reason to believe in Kent State football.
Yeah.
Because of Shawn Lewis. The program has been better under him than it ever has been.
Well, at least since Julian Edelman was there.
Right. I guess.
I don't even think they were
but
good.
Like consistently. Like he's been there. I think this was his second or third year.
Entering his fourth. So
he's entering his fourth. So it was his third year. And I think that he's only had one losing season.
Okay, so
he went
2-10. He went 2-10 his first year, and he's had 2 winning seasons back to back. I just looked up the best season that Kent State's had, and
it was 12-1.
No, it was 11-3, and it made me mad when I saw the head coach because it's Daryl Hazel, who went on to just absolutely destroy the Purdue football program.
Yep. I remember that.
So. Yeah, they were even up to 18th in the country. They got
I remember that season because I think they won the MAC championship or they were in it.
They went undefeated in the conference. So
yep. Yeah. So, but Shawn Lewis is being touted nationally as an exciting coach with promise. He seems to be taking Kent State to a new place. They were 3-1 in 2020 with a lone loss to Buffalo, and they made a bowl and won the bowl in 2019. Their facilities aren't great. There doesn't seem to be a ton of like fan interest in improving the program's lot, but I think that as long as Shawn Lewis is there, they're going to continue to be a pretty good team. Their offense is humming, and it can be dangerous at times. And
you picked them to beat Maryland in our Big Ten.
Yeah. I think it could happen. I don't know if it will, but I think it could. That's my long shot pick. They were 118th nationally, 5th in the MAC East, 11th in the MAC, which is, kind of right there with what they've always done. And he's been able to improve their lot with really crappy players. So I don't know why they couldn't potentially. I mean, they're probably my like very, very dark horse candidate to win the MAC East. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think
I would agree with that. Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about Shawn Lewis. I know you mentioned he's a stan. I kind of want to explain why we're such big fans of Shawn Lewis.
I'm a fan of him because he looks like he could literally run through a brick wall.
I think we're both fans of him because he's a BG guy. He worked under Dino Babers at BG and at Syracuse. He's also, I found this interesting. He's the youngest head coach at the FBS level right now.
I knew that.
34 years old. But yeah, that's why we're such a big fan of him, because he was part of the championship team.
He was the co-offensive coordinator for the 20,
which I believe was like it was like one of the best offenses in the country, like statistically.
Yeah, so. I mean, and I think that he was the reason that the program was so good, because he was also the reason that Syracuse was any good
until he
was there.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, we definitely, like we said, dark horse pick for this year, Kent State. I think we're both in agreement on that. And I don't see if he continues to proceed with Kent State, I don't see Shawn Lewis sticking around.
No way.
Very long at Kent State. I think
I could even see him leaving after this season.
If they have another great season, if they go 10-2, 9-3, something like that.
He's gone.
Yeah.
They got Texas A&M at Texas A&M. Then they host VMI, which I actually think is going to be kind of a tough game. VMI.
We just talked about them. They were in the playoffs.
Yeah, seems to be. They were pretty good this year. Then they're at Iowa and at Maryland. I don't think they beat Iowa. I think that they could roll into Maryland and possibly play an upset. I think they beat Bowling Green, maybe not Buffalo. I think they could beat Western, maybe not Ohio.
But see, that's that thing. We don't really know. They're a dark.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the thing. Is like I'm just looking at their I would put money on some of these games, but I wouldn't like bet my house.
Based on what they did last year in that shortened COVID season and the way he's kind of turned it around to where it was 2-10, 7-6, 3-1. If it continues, and we believe in Shawn Lewis, so that's what we think about Kent State right now.
Oh.
So shocking, our next team was not like the bottom in the recruiting class.
I'm actually not surprised by this, but also okay, it's Bowling Green.
Yes.
They have a national rank of 105.
Surprising.
Which was better than what I thought it would be.
Yes.
However, I've followed Bowling Green's recruiting for quite some time. It was probably the first team that I ever actually followed in recruiting. And Bowling Green has been a consistently high recruiter in the MAC. I think it was the years under Mike Jinks, they had the number one recruiting class in the MAC 2 years in a row. Before that, they had the number 2 recruiting class 2 years in a row. And then last year, they were ranked. They had the number 2 recruiting class. So they
86th nationally.
86th nationally. So they fell quite a bit to 105th and 10th overall. But we've talked about the MAC with these players. Sometimes you just have those classes that suck, and your teams are better than the players. Our alma mater.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely excited about this team though.
I'm not excited about the coach. Leffler doesn't excite me.
Yeah, I wasn't super fired up for the hiring of Scott Leffler. He's done enough for me to say that I'm good with him for another season, maybe 2 seasons. Mike Jinks really took this program to the worst that it's ever been.
To the fucking toilet.
Brought the floor just way down. He basically built a basement underneath the program and said, this is now the ground floor.
Yes.
This year's recruiting class just doesn't give me much hope. But next year's, they've got currently the 82nd nationally ranked recruiting class for next year, which is looking pretty good. And they are currently the 3rd ranked MAC team, which beats all of the other MAC East schools because none of them currently even have any players signed. So I don't know how to feel. We're gonna see where this goes, but maybe in the next couple of years, Scott Leffler will have it turned around. He came from Boston College, for those of you that don't know.
Yeah, he's been around a long time.
Yeah.
He's coached at a lot of different places, like you said. He's been either an offensive coordinator or a quarterbacks coach or both at a couple places.
I was kind of waiting for his big break.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, his big break had to be at Bowling Green, and
yeah.
I'm hoping that they keep him around because he does deserve that time because the team was truthfully awful when he started.
Yeah,
it's not one of those things where they need to fire him after 2 years.
And it's not even like that they're bad football. I feel like it was the culture thing. Like it was just a bad culture as well.
The bad culture. I mean, also you have to realize the Bowling Green is, I think last year they were the last in revenue for FBS schools. So the funding isn't there. Just like everything that's around.
They did actually. I don't know if you saw this. They hired a new director, a director of football ops. They hired. I forget her name. Oh crap!
I didn't know it was a woman. That's exciting.
They hired her a couple weeks ago. She's a young. I forget her name now. But they're optimistic, and she seems like she's going to do some sweeping changes in the program.
Okay, cool.
Maybe that's one positive we could take from Bowling Green right now. Is they have a new female, which is cool, football ops director. So I'm trying to.
You pull it up. I'll start talking about their schedule. So they got Tennessee to start the season, Labor Day weekend. I think that'll be a good kind of mile marker game to see where they're at. I know they're not going to win. But I think we can see where they're at. And then they play South Alabama out of the Sun Belt. I'm not sure how to feel about that game. It's at Bowling Green. So, maybe there's a chance that Bowling Green squeaks out a win there. And then they got Murray State. I think they win that game. Murray State's pretty good, but I think they win that game. And then they're at Minnesota. That'll be an interesting game. You get to play the Golden Gophers and row the boat and all that. Hopefully sink a boat, but that's probably also not
gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
They're at Kent, but then they get Akron at home, so that could potentially be a win. They get Eastern Illinois at home and Toledo. At home. That Toledo one at home is an important one.
Was it the last time they played at BG that BG won? Okay, I couldn't remember if it was.
Was for those of you that don't know, most of you do know, but Bowling Green was on a 9-game skid against Toledo, our rivals, and it was just not competitive until Scott Leffler in his first year somehow pulled magic out of his butthole and was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna go in and beat Toledo," and then I think Toledo won the MAC that year.
Yeah, I really don't. I said there needs to be a documentary made about the 2008 Kansas team with Mark.
For real, there needs to be a documentary about that game.
Yes, about how the hell
only you and I and maybe like 2 other people would watch, but
I'd watch it.
I would watch the crap out of that.
Yes.
I
did look up her name.
Huh?
Real quick. I did look up her name real quick. It's Damaris Linker.
Nice.
She worked at Texas Tech, where she was the volleyball director of ops.
Okay.
So, but she's
Makes
from
sense.
Illinois. She is, I don't know. I thought it said how old she is, but she's fairly young. So we'll see.
Kind of makes sense, actually. The volleyball director of ops at Bowling Green, we went to school with her. I knew her name's Caitlin, and she's doing a really good job there. And Bowling Green's volleyball program has done.
They won the MAC, didn't they?
Huh? Say what? Yeah, they won the MAC. I think they went undefeated this past year. So it kind of makes sense that they would like entrust that to a volleyball ops person. I don't think Caitlin has the experience that they would be looking for, but that would make sense to me. That's a good hire. Bowling Green has Ohio to finish off at home. Ohio to finish off the season, and then there's the MAC championship game, which they will probably not be attending. But
thanks for trying.
Here's hoping for improvement. I'd like to see improvement.
At this point, that's all we can hope for is like just win a couple games, just like win 2 games, 2 or 3 games.
My goal is 3 games, and next year Mega Bowl.
I mean, what do we look their last 5 years? Okay, they did win 3 games in a row. Okay, never mind. Yeah, 3 games. 3 games.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Okay. Ohio.
All right. Nationally ranked 100th, 3rd in the MAC East, 9th in the MAC overall. Previously ranked 129th, so big improvement. Previously ranked 11th in the MAC.
See, I don't think recruiting's ever really mattered for Ohio.
No, it hasn't.
It's all about the head coach, Frank Solich.
He always finds a way to be in the conversation for the MAC East championship.
Every year.
He doesn't recruit well, but he's a good developer of players, and his team is always at a minimum competitive.
Yes. To back that up statistically, they've made a bowl game in 11 of his 16 seasons as head coach. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that speaks volumes. I'm pretty sure one of his worst losses ever was like a 43-3 loss at Bowling Green in like 2015, maybe. No, it would have been 2013. Whatever that game was.
See, like a bad season for them is 4-8. That's the worst record I'm seeing with him as a head coach. So you got a solid floor. He's the longest tenured head coach in the MAC.
Yep.
And I kind of have this thought that in the MAC, like we're saying, all these guys they're fighting over the same players. They're all the same kind of level of player in terms of talent.
Right.
So coaching means so much more in the MAC than just about every other conference, because it's such a balanced in terms of so balanced in terms of the talent, that a good head coach, and we've seen that like with Akron, like I said, Terry Bowden takes them to the best stretch of their history in the FBS, and Dave Clawson, Urban Meyer, these guys that come in to beat BG and do really well and move on to bigger jobs. Like, it's all about the coaching. But
Brian Kelly at Central Michigan.
Yeah.
Which Jones, which, I mean, that was probably riding Brian Kelly's coattails, but
like we said, he's going to Notre Dame next.
Yeah. I'm trying to find Frank Solich's worst loss at Ohio, and my computer's not really wanting to work with me on this, but it was a 49-0 drubbing at Bowling Green, and that was when Bowling Green was really rolling.
Yeah.
Was a bad loss, but I haven't seen them lose that bad since then.
And I know that you love to talk about stadiums and facilities. Facilities, they might not have the best, but stadium, I love that stadium. I love
they actually
the
have a very solid practice facility. It's probably next to Bowling Green off the top of my head. They have the best.
Yeah. Like, I think Ohio Stadium, it might not be the best actual physical stadium, but I don't know, where it's located, it's such a cool campus, stadium.
It's beautiful.
There's
not a bad spot in.
Sits right on the river. Oh,
yep.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm optimistic for Ohio, because I'm optimistic every season that Frank Solich is their head coach. Doesn't really matter. I don't care what the recruiting class is. He's going to do something with it. They're going to be competitive.
Yeah.
Take a look at their schedule. They got an interesting opening game.
Yeah.
They're playing Syracuse at home.
Yeah, I think that's going to probably end up being a win for Ohio.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, because it's still. I'd probably take them with the points if they weren't favored. I think it's going to be a competitive game, but I'm more talking return of Dino Babers to the MAC to face an old MAC foe.
I just don't think Syracuse is any good at all. I think they're possibly one of the worst teams in college football. So,
okay.
I don't know how many games they're going to win next year, but off the top of my head, I would be willing to bet less than 2.
Okay, wow. Look forward to Syracuse getting its ass ripped by Cody in the ACC episode.
Yeah.
Syracuse, maybe a win, possibly a win. Then they play Duquesne, and then they're at Louisiana, which is an interesting game. Louisiana's definitely better, but I think that should be an interesting game at least. And then they finish off non-conference at Northwestern. Then they play Akron, Central Michigan, Buffalo, Kent State, Miami, Eastern Michigan, Toledo, and then they finish at Bowling Green. So that's their schedule.
Yep. I mean, it'll be interesting for sure. We'll see what happens, but they're always in the conversation. You can't count on Ohio. Yeah. So this next program is actually my choice. If I'm betting money, I'm betting on this next program to win the MAC East, and that is Buffalo.
Okay.
They're 99th overall, 2nd in the MAC East, 8th in the MAC. Last year they were 12th in the MAC. So why do you ask? Do I have them winning the MAC East?
Because they won it last year.
Well, they won last year, but also I think Lance Leopold has this program humming. I think Lance Leopold is probably, if you're hiring a head coach, Lance Leopold's the guy you want.
Well, he might not even make it to this season, because I think he's linked with the Kansas job, which Kansas still needs to make a permanent decision on. So.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect hire for Kansas. Lance Leopold he's a program builder, and he's a guy that stays somewhere a while. He's not someone that really likes to jump around. He's been at Buffalo a few years now. I can't remember how many.
Entering his 7th season.
Yes, and before that, he was at Wisconsin Whitewater. He won 6 D3 national championships, and he was in 7 of them. As long as he is at Buffalo, they're the team to beat in the East for me. Recruiting is in the cream of the crop, but it's never has been anywhere that he's went. I don't really know what his long-term goals are. Kansas, that is really intriguing. And I had heard a little bit of rumblings when they first opened the job, but since they hadn't made any like moves, I wasn't sure if they would go that far yet.
It seems more and more likely the further we get into like summer and like more like close to spring game, like the interim coach is just going to be made the head coach.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. And then they're going to do the search after the season. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
But we can maybe,
but only do it for 1 year.
Head coach in waiting at Kansas.
Yeah.
Essentially, they went 6-1 in 2020 with their lone loss to Ball State in the MAC championship game, and they beat former MAC team Marshall in the Camille Bowl. And I think that they have a good chance to be right back in this thing for 2021.
I agree.
I feel good about Buffalo.
I do as well. I like similar reasons. Lance Leopold, I have a lot of faith in him. I think he's a good coach, like you said. So I don't really have anything else to say. We can talk about their schedule if you want.
I'm excited about their schedule.
Third game of the season.
Coastal Carolina.
Coastal Carolina.
I think that, and that's for me, that's their toughest game of the non-conference. So they've got Wagner at Buffalo. Then they go to Lincoln, Nebraska, where all the Joshes met this past weekend. That's a dub. They take that home. Dub money. All right, then, you got them win on the money line?
No, I'd probably pick Nebraska. Just because it's everybody always buys into the
I tend to be right there with you.
Everybody buys into the Nebraska hype at the beginning of the season.
And then they get one win against like a MAC team, and like, oh, Nebraska's back.
Yeah,
they're not.
Buffalo won the MAC East last year. Nebraska beat Buffalo. They're back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, but I think they could make that an interesting game. I think they got Coastal at Buffalo, so that could be interesting if they can manage to get people into the stadium for that game. That'll be an interesting game. And then they're at Old Dominion. I think that could be. I mean, that's a win. They're going to win that game. They've got, so at worst they're 2-2 coming out of the non-conference. I think that looking at their schedule in the conference, there's not a team in the conference they can't beat. I say they probably lose 2 of those games and somehow end up in the MAC championship game.
See, I feel like every year we have that team that goes to 6-7-1 in the MAC. So like, I don't know if 2 losses in conference will do it. Like,
maybe.
I don't know.
I see them finishing the season 8-4.
See, that I feel like that's disappointing if you're a Buffalo fan. Like,
yeah, but they're not returning their best running back, and some of the returning production isn't there. But I still think that they've got the team to win. I mean, so you thinking you want to, if you're Buffalo, you want to see them at 10-2?
10-2, 9-3, something like that. Well, I'd say 9-3 is a good shout, because if we're granting them 2 losses in the non-conference, then that's what I'm saying is like the MAC tends to tear itself up. They just tend to like lose games they shouldn't lose and win games they should. Seems like it's just a crapshoot every year. You never actually know.
It is. But based off what I know, I think they should be in the MAC championship game. Sitting at 9-3.
I agree with that.
They win the MAC championship game. They're 10-3. How's that sound to you?
I agree. I wasn't saying that they weren't. I didn't think they should make it to the championship. I just think that I think 2 losses, there's a chance that what we said earlier. What if Kent State goes 8-0 in the conference?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point.
What if Ohio has a 1-loss conference record?
You have a very good point.
That's all I was trying to say.
Okay, Dad.
All right, final team, shockingly, the third best recruiting class in
This
the MAC.
does not shock me at all.
Wow, it shocked me, and I'm fairly close with following Miami because my dad works
I was not shocked at all by this. Miami has been really improving their facilities. I forgot when I said earlier that Bowling Green has some of the best facilities, because that is false. Miami by far has the best facilities in the MAC.
I mean, it's the Ivy School of the Midwest, so they got a lot of money.
Their locker room straight up looks like a Walmart version of Alabama's locker room.
Mhm.
It is real nice. They've got the fancy lights and TVs everywhere, and they've got an indoor practice facility that's connected to their stadium. It's super nice, and also has seating for families and stuff. So like recruits get to go see all the nice stuff that they have, and then walk out onto the field to see the game.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's a really cool situation they've got there. Chuck Martin seems to be slowly moving this program in the right direction. I mean, not super quickly, but Miami is kind of known as being the powerhouse in the MAC, and they haven't been a powerhouse since Ben Roethlisberger was there. Really. They're a lot more competitive than they were in the past. I think that season that they started 0-6 and somehow finished the last 6 games, and then they played Mississippi State, really kind of bolstered their ability to win games.
It gave them an identity. Like I think of Miami now.
I see that season as kind of the turning point for this team, because they haven't been terrible since then.
Yeah.
And they're a lot more competitive. Their recruiting is a lot better from when he was there. They went 2-10. They went 2-10 or 2-1. Sorry, not 2-10. In 2020. So
yeah, they were hit pretty heavily with COVID.
Yeah.
So they
lost a lot of games. Lost a lot of games. Not lost, but weren't able to play a lot of games.
Yeah.
Because of COVID.
Miami was
been pretty good.
Like you said, Miami was kind of one of the powerhouses. I don't know if they were the powerhouse of
They have the
MAC.
most conference championships in the MAC.
They've also been around forever.
But 17 conference championships is nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah,
Bowling
I'm
Green
not saying
14.
Yeah. Over the last 20 years, they haven't been a powerhouse. Not like they've had blips where, Ben Roethlisberger was there. They go 13-1. They had a season in 2010 where they go 10-4. But other than that, it's losing records until old Chuck Martin got here, and he's slowly, like you said, turning it around. And then that year, going 6-7, losing a closely fought. I can remember watching that game against Mississippi State.
Yep.
Because, like I said, my dad works for the team, and he was all excited because they were winning.
I mean, they were
6 in a
exciting.
row.
I don't like Miami, just being a Bowling Green fan, and they were exciting to watch. I was rooting for them.
And since then, they've turned around, winning record last year 2-1, but the year before that they went 8-6. I believe they were in the MAC championship game, weren't they?
I think they were. Let me look it up.
In 2019, I think they might have been. But Chuck Martin, I think he's a great. We keep saying program builders, but I think he's done a nice job establishing a culture. He's known as an offensive coach. That's what he was at Notre Dame. But when I think of Miami right now, I think of a defensive team, like a really good defensive team. At least that's what they've been the last couple of years.
Right.
But I don't know. He's entering his 8th season now as head coach. He was the Notre Dame assistant, like I said.
So they won the MAC championship in 2019.
Okay, that's what I thought they played in it. I couldn't remember if they won. But
it was a solid team. They played Central Michigan. But yeah, I mean, I think that the program's trending up.
So Miami's actually going to was my pick for the MAC East this year.
I kind of figured it would be.
I'm going to go with Miami for this year. I think Miami, and if not Miami, Ohio. Those are going to be my 2 picks for this year. So a little bit.
I enjoy that.
Off the radar.
So looking at Miami's schedule this year, I know they've got Cincinnati as their first team, and
What's the name of that rivalry?
It's now like the I-75 rivalry or something like that.
No, that's Toledo Bowling Green. That's the I-75.
I think they like changed it.
Oh, because I was gonna say Backyard Brawl, but that's UC and Pitt or something, isn't it?
Maybe.
Or UC and no, that's the Crosstown Shootout.
Right. It's the Victory Bell.
That's right.
Right.
That's like one of the oldest rivalry trophies too.
Yeah.
Right?
They've played pretty much continuously. Looks like
It's got to be over 100 years.
Miami leads the series 59-58, and they have 7 ties.
Here we go. It's the 5th most played rivalry in college football history, and it's the oldest rivalry west of the Allegheny Mountains. There you go.
124 times they've played each other.
A lot of damn times. Not as many as Purdue and Indiana. Purdue and Indiana played like 162 times or something like that.
Wild. Cincinnati's kind of held.
Cody, it's not true.
What's not true?
Purdue and Indiana have now played 162 times.
Oh, okay.
You know how absurd that would be? Football wasn't even invented.
You could have fooled me.
I obviously did.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Cincinnati's kind of owned that rivalry.
Yeah.
Since 2006, they've won every game since 2006. I don't know how much longer this rivalry lasts, honestly.
I'm reading here that they've extended the rivalry series through 2029. So
yeah, and I don't know how long it lasts after that.
I mean, why wouldn't they? Because like Cincinnati knows they're the better team. They're probably gonna win. And Miami gets the recognition, and they get to play one of the bigger boys in the area. I think it benefits both sides.
I think it does benefit both sides. I just also think that Cincinnati is going to get too big for their britches.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, there have been crazier things that have happened that like discontinuing rivalries and things like that.
As long as Ohio State's in the state, I don't see Cincinnati getting above really this ceiling where it's at right now. Like last season, I see that as the absolute ceiling of what Cincinnati.
That's fair. That's fair. I think it could go higher, but we're not talking
You're
about
also a little biased.
Yeah, I am. The American conference conversation is going to be fun. But that is not this week. Finishing up our MAC, do you have any last thoughts? Do you have a guess on who's going to win the overall MAC?
Oh, the overall MAC. Okay. So I picked Miami, if not them, Ohio, to come out of the East. I forget who did I ended up going with in the West because you took my first 2 picks.
Gosh, I don't even remember at this point.
Yeah, I don't even know. Eastern Michigan, that's who I picked. I picked Eastern Michigan for some reason.
Oh, yeah. That's not going to happen.
So I'm going to say Miami wins the MAC championship this year.
Okay. I think despite how bad the East recruiting is, I feel better about the MAC East than I do about the MAC West. I think the MAC East has better coaches.
I think you are more optimistic about the East, given their recent terribleness, and like the MAC West is still good, so you're just like, they're still good.
Maybe. I don't think but maybe it benefits better. Like there's one team in the East that like does really well and just rolls through the East and doesn't have to play anybody super hard, and then the West.
That was Buffalo last year, and they lost to Ball State.
Yeah, but maybe they get beat up, and the guy from the West gets beat up, and they roll in with a couple losses, and I don't know. Miami was Ball State's only loss last year.
Yeah, they were.
So that's kind of interesting. I see Miami or Buffalo being the 2 teams, and I think I would take either one to beat anyone in the West.
You got to pick one. You got to pick one.
All right, fine. Buffalo. I picked Buffalo to win.
The audience is satisfied. All right. Well, that's it for the MAC East and the MAC in general.
I don't have anything else. Thank you all for watching. We sure appreciate you. If you have any comments or questions or want to tell us how wrong we are or yell at us, please do so in the comments below. We would appreciate to argue with you.
Yes.
We will give you a shout out, more than likely.
Bye.
Bye.